Morning, guys. I wanted to jump in and do this video today, and I've recorded it and popping it up for everybody to see, because I wanted to share with you some of the journey that I am going through and that I am starting to shift. And it is to do with my own health, and it's been hanging around for a little while, but I've been soldering on and trying to make sure that I could sort all my shit out while I was helping everybody else, right? And yesterday I was in clinic and I was sharing with a lady who is doing her own work, her own personal work on herself and comes to see me for treatments. And I said to her how prevalent it is that there are people out there in all fields of service or health work who don't necessarily practice what they preach or who may not necessarily be taking care of themselves. And the saying that I've always had is physician heal thyself, right? And I was thinking about this last night, reflecting on it. And this morning I've just done an order for my own set of blood work because I'm working towards doing optimization in terms of reading blood work for optimal performance and living versus just functional, right? Or versus just normal, whatever normal is. So I've requested my own bloods, which I can do for other people, but at the moment I've just got a small pocket of people that I'm working with because I'm still working through my own health, right? So people look at me and think that I've got this amazing life and that I am perfectly fit and well and that I'm strong. And I am, right? In comparison, I am extremely strong for someone in my bracket. I've got an eyelash in my eye. I'm also extremely good at masking when I don't feel that well or going quiet when I don't feel that well. So, the last 2 weeks have given me a lot of insight into, I assume, what it feels like to not be well, okay? Because I can run 100 miles an hour for quite a long time, and then I just crash for a day, pass out, might get a migraine, and then I pick myself up the next day, and I've had that system reset, but away I go again, right? I am grateful that I don't suffer with a lot of pain in my body. My pain is self-inflicted, so it comes from me training, physically training in the gym, or when I go and do a part of the role that I love, which is community-based, and put on all the gear to go be a fire person, and I end up with a bit of a sore body afterwards or a bit of a sore head. So I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Um, and that's great. Okay. I'm really grateful for that, really happy for that. I've had broken bones, I've ripped muscles, I've had ligaments and tendons pulled and ripped in my knees, had all the normal trimmings of someone who's had a bit of a adventurous life, but I think I've escaped that side of the would you say the residue? I've escaped that side of things fairly well, right? The thing is, but that I still know what it feels like to have pain in the body, but I don't know personally what it feels like to be someone who lives every day with pain. Okay, so if that's you, um, I'm happy to work with you and I will work with you, but please know that I don't personally understand what it feels like to be in your body, and really nobody does, okay? Which is why we have to help each other. So I can work on your blood markers, I can work on your body, I can see what's happening to your body or and understand the anatomy, the structural physiological side of things. But I won't necessarily know what it feels like, and that's where we need to have that open communication. So what I wanted to share as well is that I noticed that when I get a migraine, and it's become more a case of self-awareness as I've gotten older, right? It's challenging to look after this physical body, this human body thing that carts us around, right? And the older you get, the longer you've had it for. I've had a few giggles with some clients that are over the age of 80 in terms of, God, I don't know how long am I going to be able to do all this when I get to your age? Like, I just admire what they're capable of doing because at the moment I'm like, um, you wouldn't even say middle age. I'm not even middle age yet, but at the moment I'm in the center there, right? I'm 47, and I remember listening to a talk by Zig Ziglar, and he was, I think he was in his 70s, and he was saying he was middle aged in his 70s because he was going to live to 120 or whatever it was, might have been 60s. Anyway, digress. So, yeah, talking to these older clients, I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to be able to do things like you're doing at your age? If I feel unwell, right? So it's not that I don't have pain. It's just that I know that I'm not operating at the optimal performance. I know that I'm not operating at that level that I know that I'm capable of. Okay. Fantastic physical body, eat extremely well, look after myself well as best that I can, learn, study, share, teach, do all those processes. However, I still have to work on myself all the time because I'm not functioning as well as what I would like to. So I shared a picture, which was the perfect snapshot of fragrance, right? It was a synthetic perfume, one of those sort of pictures, talking about how that smell actually coats the inner lining of your nasal passage and your mouth as well, depending on how you breathe. But long story short, it draws attention back to the fact that our liver is the organ within our body which assists us with detoxification. Okay. And in the past, I have been someone that has just said, well, use milk thistle and dandelion supplement, find yourself a really good probiotic. Um, I don't really steer people towards a liver cleanse as such, but they are there, right? And I've talked to people about the connection between the gallbladder and the liver with your bile ducts and all of this sort of stuff. But stepping into the space of being able to teach people how to read their blood work really, really well, um, means that I'm doing less of the just take this and just take that, and more of the, well, these are your symptoms, that's what they tell me, so let's have a look at your blood work, right? So I personally know that my liver is needing help. And the reason I know that is because when I think about those headaches, right? So if I gravitate right back to what I was talking to you about at the start of this little train of conversation, my liver and my stomach, your gallbladder, all your organs are connected, right? This is why it blows my mind when you go to a specialist and they say to you, oh, I'm just studying the brain. My area is just the brain. I didn't know about this gut-brain axis. It's not my job to study the gut. Well, hello, if you're working with a human, you look after their whole health, right? That's my personal rant. So when I get a migraine, it can be triggered by smell, it can be triggered by food, it can be triggered by repeat, normally always triggered by repeat chemical exposure or preservatives. Okay, I've worked it out now. I've finally gotten to the age where I've worked it out. Now, what happened for me was I went to a seminar at the end of last year, December 2024, and I was really interested in this seminar because it's where I kicked off with the functional blood work. And I had always looked at the ranges in our blood work when they come back and gone, what's normal? This doesn't make sense to me. Nah, I think that's a trigger, that's a flare, that's a sign, an indicator that something's going to go wrong. So, what's going on? But the gentleman that was presenting put up two things which really hit home for me, which made me then come back to, we're in March now, March 2025. So December I came home, I think about things a lot, and then I go, oh, hang on a minute, no, I actually need to start doing something. So it's taken me until March to get the tests ordered for myself because I've shoved my health to the side like a typical service to others instead of service to self will do. Stick it to the side and think, all right, no, I'm going to go out and do work. I'm going to go and see clients. I'm going to make sure I go to that conference. I'm going to make sure I do all these other things before I look after myself. Well, it's taken me 3 months to get back to this point. What he shared with me that made me go, holy shit, was there is an indicator that your blood-brain barrier has been crossed or your blood-brain barrier has been infiltrated, that it's not as strong as what it should be, right? That you've got that issue with that. And if you are someone that has that issue, it means that you've got issues with the blood vessels going into the brain. You are more likely to have these sort of headaches or reactions to super sensitive smells, right? The indicator is a diagonal line across your earlobe. So I'm pretty sure you can't really see because I've been working on it, but it will run from, and it'll be either earlobe. So I know it's definitely on my left one, right one, sorry. I always thought that that was just because I had my ears pierced, right? But it's not. It runs across diagonal line across my earlobe. Now that's an indicator of something going on with the blood vessels in my brain. The reason that this made me stop and have a look at this a little bit closer is because the research article that he then put up, talked around that. And I have also looked into this sort of stuff when I've been working with people that have got Alzheimer's, dementia, and other neurological issues that are impacting their brain, which is then impacting their body. Because the brain and the mind to me is extremely important in my little vessel. So it threw me into a bit of a spin. And what it led me down the track of was remembering how important the liver is in terms of detoxification and helping the body, looking after the body. When I had a look at the picture that I shared today, it was another reminder that, hello, get on, do something, talk about this, start sharing about this. Doesn't matter if you're not perfect. This is not scripted in any way. I've got no notes. But we will be doing more scripted sharing of content, right? This is more just to raise your awareness around this and for you to understand that we all go through our own health journeys. I'm sharing this with you so that you get to see this experience with me. I will share with you what I do. I'll share with you my bloods. I'll share with you in terms of the reports. I'll share with you different things that I learn and encourage you to start looking after yourself as well. And the reason I'm doing this is because, as someone who is a guide and a coach, teacher, doctor, docere means teacher. So, someone who is very, very interested in helping people with their human health. It's important that I do this and it's important that I share this with you and you get to come along for the ride. So, I'm focusing in on the liver. Why would my liver not be functioning well? I noticed that sometimes when I go on call outs, this is the first trigger for me. I went on a call out and I spent a lot of time standing around the truck because it's running the pump and things. And that fume smell, right? That diesel fume smell and things. After a while, it was really strong. And then that evening, because it was a long job, that evening I noticed that I was starting to get a headache. Now, what I have worked out in the last few years, 3 years, that helps me when I get a migraine is an ice bath. That's my personal thing. You can just put your feet in freezing cold water and it will help the same. But when I first started getting all of this stuff, I would take Aspro. Why? Because it helped me, because it felt like the pressure to start with was running up the back of my neck and into my head. Clear indicator that I've got issues with blood vessels, right? That there's things going on. So your nose is really important in terms of letting things get in. And if your blood-brain barrier is that little bit thinner than other people, then you got problems, right? My husband has a strong constitution. Mine is not that strong, which means I've got to work hard to look after myself. He can do whatever he likes to himself. Potentially, he's not going to cause him any problems just yet. But that's because he's got a strong constitution. Not a lot of us are like that, right? So when I noticed that that smell was giving me that headache, I went, I know this pain because it is. It's a intense pain. It's like a burn and a stab, and yeah, it just wipes me out, right? There's no medication that I can take. I just got to sit underneath a hot shower, get in an ice bath. It's that hot, cold exposure. I've got to sleep it off. I'm no good for 24 to 48 hours. And I've always seen it as a reset because it literally shuts down my brain. So that, again, right now, many, many years later, this has been happening to me for like 20 years of my life, but many years later, I can see the signs now that match with the research and the data, which I would not have ever known about otherwise, right? So that helps me. And And there's a few other tools that I use that help me too. But I went on a bit of a journey to find out why. Why is this happening to me? Why can all the other guys stand around the fire truck and they don't have the same issue? Why can somebody else walk into a cheap um, pharmacy or cheap chemist and not feel like they're going to get blown out the front door by the fake fragrances that are there, or the strong cleaning products, or the some antiperspirant deodorants that people use. You know, you walk in and it just stings your nose instantly, like you're walking in and hitting something. Walk past someone and go, "Oh God." The reason that that happens to me and it probably happening to other people is because my liver function has never been fantastic ever since I finished bodybuilding. So when I did um, figure competing in my mid 20s, the issue that I had was that the way that I achieved the desired appearance on stage was done with some really harsh dieting and stuff and fluid depletion and doing a whole heap of consecutive competitions in the one year, the next year, the year after it. My organs didn't like that. My liver was one of them that actually suffered quite strongly with that. So that would be probably 20, I don't know, maybe I'll need to look at that. My last competition was probably 20 years ago, maybe 22 years ago. No coincidence, right? Linking up with how long I've had the severe migraines. But I know that. The other thing that I know is that genetically, my liver is potentially not going to be as strong as other people's livers. Why? Because my dad comes from a lineage that includes the abuse of alcohol, and there are genetic um, biological components in our body. And in Ayurveda, we talk a lot about the vitality of your parents at the time that you were conceived, that makes up your doshas and things, but it also makes up you as that person. If you think about that, you think about what your parents were like health-wise when they were conceiving you, then you know that only a small amount, right? Because I don't buy into the genetic thing that my dad's got that, so therefore I'm going to have this. No, that's not true because you are 100% in control of yourself once you begin aware. Epigenetics is that, right? You become aware of your environment. You start to do things to look after yourself, to look after your own constitution. But you, at the same time, are aware that potentially you are going to be someone who that organ or that biological function may be challenged, okay, whereas for other people it won't be. So, liver for me, right? I don't have fatty liver disease, alcoholic or non-alcoholic. I've tried drinking alcohol, doesn't work so well for me. Um, I've always been a cheap date. Okay, I'm allergic to seafood and stuff like that, and I can't drink much. So I have had drinks spiked in the past, and I've also found that my liver doesn't convert the alcohol in the way that it's supposed to, so that my body can function, right? So if I do drink and my liver isn't happy, then it can't do the final step in the process, which means that the alcohol, so when you first take the alcohol in, it gets broken down into two other components, which your body then will do something else with. This is all happening in your liver, do something else with for you to be able to then convert it into something else which is usable by the body. But there is a step there that is in my body missing, and in a lot of other people that have certain genetic traits, it's missing in there too. So it never converts to the final um, component, if you like, that your body can actually use. Instead, it stays as the poison, and it really makes me unwell. So, and aggressive and whatever else, because the liver is the organ that houses that bitterness, right, and that anger and things like that. So there's a whole other thing happening around this organ than just being a function in your body. So yeah, long video for me to say to you that welcome to my current journey. I'm looking after my liver. I'm learning how to care for all of the components in my body really well, but that one is really important to me. So, whatever your section of your body is that you are required to work on, um, will be different to me, but maybe it might be similar, right? If you've got alcoholic fatty liver disease or alcoholic, yeah, it is alcoholic fatty liver disease or non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, maybe you're journeying with insulin, even though that's pancreas, it's going to pop across as well. Maybe you're on a cocktail of medications and drugs. Um, your liver's got to function and process all of those things. And do everything else that it's supposed to do. So we are going to be on a similar journey, especially people in my age bracket, right? Which is going to be between the ages of 30 to 50. You guys, we are in that section of society where we do have to work on our liver. The people before us, it was their lungs, it's grief. If you're looking at a lot of the oldies, they're getting pneumonia, they're getting bronchial issues. Some of the older people that died during that whole um, 2020 to 2024 period, um, it was their respiratory system, right? The older generation, it was their lungs that was the organ. We're in the bracket where it's the liver that's the organ. Um, and we just got to process it and work through it. Anyway, so um, a few other things that are happening. I want to share this journey with you guys, but I also want to be doing this in a way that you find it inspiring so that you can also look after yourself. I invite you to talk to me if you want to either be a part of the journey in terms of helping other people and you want to learn how to do that, or maybe you want to be able to find the time to devote to your own health. If that's the case, then we can work together on that as well because I need accountability people just as much as what you do. If you want to come in and do coaching with me, that opportunity is also there as well. I'm only just starting to craft that package, which means at the moment I'm only working with a small amount of people. But so grateful that they're letting me do this because in the end it will help so many more. But anyway, that's where I'm at. Fantastic herbs to support your body in terms of liver are milk thistle and dandelion, right? But there's also thyme and the Mediterranean herbs. There's also the Mediterranean diet, which helps supports our system. And then, of course, there is the awareness around grains and encouraging you to actually embrace the fact that you can eat fat, avocado, good fats, nice creams, beautiful cheeses. Um, if you choose to eat meat, then yeah, look at different cuts of meat and things like that. But yeah, whole other ball game, right? There's heaps going on, guys, and thanks for coming on the ride. I will chat to you again very soon.